Okay, guys, good morning. As I told you last class, we are going to learn history of English, which also involves the history of Great Britain. So please pay attention to the following information. So guys, here we have the timeline. It starts 100 years ago in 55 before Christ. So and finishes in 10,066. It is like more or less close to us. So we have here the Roman invasion at the beginning, then the Germanic migration, then Christianity in 6th century, then the Viking invasions, and finally the Norman invasion. So these are the events we are gonna learn today, although there are more information later in history since 1066. So let's start with Roman invasion. Okay, guys, so as you should remember, there was a very big empire many centuries ago, which was the Roman Empire, and the emperor of that empire was Julius Caesar. You can see here that Caesar is spelled Caesar, so it is not a mistake, it is written like that. So the empire was spreading and in many directions, so it also took a place in what today is England. So they arrived there, the Romans arrived there, and there is something very interesting, and it is that many years later the emperor was Hadrian, and people started creating a wall. You can see it on the picture, and that wall is called the Hadrian's Wall, and that wall is located between England and Scotland. So that's very interesting, and it exists today. And well, these people, these Romans, brought Latin as a language. So of course, after the arriving of Roman people, the people of England in that area started talking and using some Latin words. Such an example, we can see here some words that are from Latin but that we use today in English. So it is human, animal, dental, decimal, digital, factor, library, manual, lunar, solar, military, science, factory, station, and mile. There is something very interesting, guys. You see that we use lunar and solar, but of course it refers, in the case of lunar, it refers to the moon, but in Latin they don't say moon but luna, so that's why we don't say lunar or something like that, but lunar and solar. So you see that those two words are very Latin words, and that are also some words that we use in Spanish, so that's why. Okay, let's move on. Okay, later in 450 after Dominic, that's what AD means, after Dominic, which is another calendar. So for us, for Colombian people, we would say 450 after Christ. So let's say just 5th century. So during the 5th century, there was the Germanic migration. And well, there is something important, and it is that there were like 3 communities in Germany. So you see in the picture a blue, a red, and a yellow line. So those were the places where were located those three communities, which were the Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes. So those three communities started moving to what today is Great Britain. So you see in the picture the places they occupied before moving. So guys, of course there was a mixture of languages, because as you already know, they were starting talking Latin, and then came those people from Germany, and let's say that all were like using different languages. The Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes were using different languages. So at the end, all those languages mixed, and as the language which was formed from the Germanic migration became Anglo-Saxons, and like that start the Old English language. Old English is a very strange kind of English, and after this slide we are gonna see some examples for you to compare how different it was. Well, here we have some introduced words by the Germanic migration, such as above, again, apple, but, good, cake, eat, drink, eat, feed, arm, boy, girl, house, hand, bread, and food. Okay, let's continue. So here guys we have like an example of Old English and Modern English. So you see on the left that it is very difficult to understand it, and on the right you see like the translation of that sentences which are on the left. So you see it was clearly very difficult and also very strange. Okay, now we arrive to the 6th century, and here starts the Christianity. Something we have to say is that before that time, before the 6th century, England and basically Great Britain was considered a pagan country or a pagan area. Remember, pagan refers to not related to God. So in this case, they didn't have like religion. So in 6th century arrives Saint Augustine, and that person was a very important person in the Christian church, and he used to use some books, mainly Bibles, and those books were in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. So let's say that this part of Latin is the same that we already learned, and something very important is the Greek. So these words you see below are some words that came from the Greek language. So you have, for example, academic, android, basic, cinema, climate, democracy, geography, history, philosophy, idea, politics, and technology. So you see that those words are related to knowledge. So that's important. Okay guys, now during the 8th and until the 11th century. So during that time happened the Viking invasions. In fact, there were not many invasions but just one. So it was just an invasion, but that invasion didn't stop until 11th century. So imagine, it was an invasion that occurred during 3 centuries. So something important is that those Viking people were coming from some Scandinavian countries, which in this case are Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. Of course, probably at the time those countries or those territories were not called like that, but we know today that those territories are called now like that. And basically, those languages which were spoken by the Vikings were also Germanic languages. So, as you saw on the previous slide, it is the same. Okay, guys. In 1066, there was the Norman invasion. So, the Normans are some people from the north of France. In the picture, you can see the red part. That's a place called Normandy. So, people from there were moving to England and to Great Britain. And as you know, French people love food. So many words that they brought to the English language were referred to food. And as you know, French, Italian, Portuguese, and Spanish all come from Latin. So in this case, the Normans came to England with Latin and also French words. So here we have some examples. These are basically from French. So it is beef, pork, veal, continue, liberty, justice, journey, people, and very. So these were the words that came from the French language. Okay, let's move. So here, guys, we have a summarize. So here we have the Germanic languages in yellow. You can see it here. The French. The in this picture you can see like the quantity of words that we use now in English, and that came from another language. So you see Germanic in yellow, French in like gray or black, Latin in blue, and like that you can see the others. Greek in green, others in red, and modern words in purple. Now, what do I mean with modern words? We are gonna learn about it, and like that we finish. Okay, so guys, modern words are some words that were introduced to the English language after the 1066. I mean, during the 15th, 16th century, and also some words that were introduced last years. For example, during the 15th and 16th century, people from around the world were moving to discover new places. You know that during that time, America was discovered, and of course, during the 16th century, people from Great Britain were moving from there to what today is United States. And because of that, they introduced new words such as potato, such as tobacco. So these words were not used before and started being used after the moving to USA and to America. And we also have some words that were introduced because nowadays life, and also some words that come from names. I have just two examples of these cases. For example, you see, for example, computer and Google, for example, are some words that weren't used some years ago, but now we use it. In fact, in English, you can say, I'm going to Google about it. So Google, in this case, is not just the name of a company, but also it's a verb. So you can say, now I am going to Google. And the other example is a machine which was created by a person called Hoover. So nowadays you can say Hoover, or I am going to hoover the floor, because this machine you see on the right is called Hoover because the man who created it. So in Spanish it is an aspiradora. So in English we call it Hoover because of the name of the creator. Okay? And that's it, guys. I hope it was clear enough and that you enjoyed a little bit the presentation or the video. See you guys, and I want to tell you that I really miss you. See you guys. We talk later.